Good morning. This is Garry Glaub in Mooresville, North Carolina. Today we are on lesson 8 of the Epistle to the Hebrews, and we're covering Hebrews chapter 4, verses 1 through 8. This one's called Rest. We are continuing in our discussion of rest today as we begin Hebrews 4. Because of unbelief, an entire generation of Hebrews did not enter the promised land, but perished in the wilderness. Moses did not enter the land either, though his mistake was not unbelief. Joshua took the place of Moses and led the Hebrews into the promised land. Again, there are different types of rest discussed in the Bible. There's God's rest after creation, our Sabbath day rest, heavenly rest, rest for our souls, rest for the fields where the crops are being planted. How sad it is that these people did not get to enter their rest. How sad it is that they failed to believe in the power of God, who had done so much for them. Let's think of their plight. They had been in slavery in the land of Egypt, and the conditions were unpleasant. God freed them from slavery and was leading them on a short journey to the promised land. The promised land had been prepared for them. Crops already were plentiful, and with God's help, they were called to rid the land of its previous residents and live in a productive land. This is quite different than what American settlers did when moving west. Not only did the American settlers endure a difficult journey, but upon arrival, they had to clear the land, build the homes, plant crops, build towns, etc. Compare that to the blessing God had for the Jewish nation, a land flowing with milk and honey. Not only were the existing crops plentiful, but they were huge. Speaking of huge, so were the people living in the land. And sadly, instead of trusting the God who never had let them down, the unbelief of the people stopped them in their tracks. They were so close. It was not just the adults who failed God in their unbelief. Certainly, some of the next generation listened to their parents and felt the same way. But God did not punish the next generation, likely because they were not yet of the age of accountability. Some unbelief did cross the Jordan River. Oh, some believed, but others still failed to follow God's instructions of going to war against each of the tribes in the land. God told them to destroy the current residents and not to make any treaties or covenants. They started well, but did not finish. And the Jewish land of Israel continues to be bothered by the descendants of those God told them to destroy so many years ago. They failed in unbelief, lack of faith. Faith and rest are joined together. Faith leads to rest, and there can be no rest without faith. Keep that in mind as we begin in Hebrews 4. Hebrews 4, verses 1 through 5 says this: Therefore, since a promise remains of entering his rest, let us fear lest any of you seem to have come short of it. For indeed the gospel was preached to us, as well as to them. But the word which they heard did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in those who heard it. For we who have believed do enter that rest. As he has said, So I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest. Although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he has spoken in a certain place of the seventh day in this way, and God rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again in this place, they shall not enter my rest. We hear the words fear not often in the Bible. For starters, anytime people meet angels. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. We also are reminded, Proverbs 9:10 says this, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. We are not supposed to walk around afraid of everything. But there are plenty of things of which we should have a healthy fear. If we found a World War II era hand grenade in the backyard, it might not be a great idea to play catch with it. As this passage begins in Hebrews 4, we see something that we should fear: unbelief. When we do not believe God, we are demonstrating that we have no faith in Him. Faith is not blind faith. Faith is belief based on what we already know, what God already has done for us, and what we already have seen. When we turn on a light switch, we might not be able to see electricity, but we know what already has occurred so many times in the past. The light comes on. That is what faith in God is about, because He never has broken a promise, never has left us, nor forsaken us, and always is faithful. We can count on anything He promises coming to fruition. It is devastatingly sad that an easy, God-led, 11-day journey to the promised land was all that God required if they just would have faithfully followed Him. Instead, they did not get to enter into the rest He planned for them. Can we be just as faithless today? Certainly, but if our relationship with God is our focus rather than just an afterthought, we are much more likely to stay on His path. As believers today, we should remember 3 kinds of rest that God has for us. Let's start with salvation, which was the rest that the generation of unbelieving Hebrews missed out on, dying in the wilderness. Until we are saved, there is no rest. Likely, all who are reading this already have been saved by the blood of the Lamb. But it should remain a focus for each of us when we are interacting with unsaved friends, family, and strangers. But do not forget, our salvation brings so many other aspects of rest in God. Because we are saved, we can benefit from the fruit of the Spirit, with the Holy Spirit living inside of us. In the wilderness, the Hebrews were always in the presence of God, with the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. We have God with us always too, and He's inside of us. That is our promised land, at least the one while we are on this earth. Next, focus on a day of rest. Our lives are so busy. Technology and smartphones are supposed to be time savers when they are really time wasters. Pick a day to unplug from those insipid devices and plug into God. Give our minds a rest, our bodies a rest, and our souls a much-needed pick-me-up of focus on our relationship with the Lord. Third, we have a heavenly rest as our future. Just as the Lord prepared the land for the children of Israel, Jesus reminded us as believers in John 14:1-4, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you know, and the way you know." Let's continue in Hebrews 4, verses 6-8, which says this: "Since therefore it remains that some must enter it, and those to whom it was first preached did not enter because of disobedience, again he designates a certain day, saying in David, 'Today, after such a long time, as it has been said, today if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. For if Joshua had given them rest, then he would not afterward have spoken of another day.'" Earlier in Hebrews, we saw a comparison between Jesus and angels, and now we see a comparison between Jesus and Joshua. Even though Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt, he could not lead them into the promised land. And even though Joshua led the children of Israel into the promised land, he could not give them rest. Many of those entering the land never had rest. Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh chose to remain on the east side of the Jordan River instead of accepting the Lord's blessings. We all need to focus on our walks with the Lord. If we find ourselves in a wilderness, it is just fine as long as he is with us. But alone in the wilderness is not where he wants us to be. The world is filled with difficulties, trials, hardships, sadness, and even destruction. But if we are his, we cannot be destroyed. Find rest in the midst of turmoil. It's all about priorities. And remember that unbelief brings death, just as it did for the children of Israel. Trust in Jesus. He is worthy. And today is the day. This is Garry Glaub in Mooresville, North Carolina. Have a blessed day.